What do you mean you haven't been paid in 3 weeks? Zane froze mid-lift, the box in his hands suddenly weightless compared to the words that had just come out of the young man next to him. 3 days earlier, Peter had walked into Warehouse 6 wearing steel-toe boots, a faded hoodie, and a fake name tag that read Rick. 9 warehouses. All his. Built from the ground up over the last 15 years. He knew every dock, every route, every contract. But now, things were slipping. Orders delayed. Turnover rising. He was getting reports that didn't add up. So, he ditched the boardroom and signed up for the graveyard shift under a new identity. Warehouse 6, tucked between 2 industrial parks, ran 24 hours. The manager, a guy named Brent, never met Peter before. None of the warehouse crew had. This facility had the highest turnover, and Peter had never personally visited this one since it opened 4 years ago. It made the perfect place to dig in. Rick, Brent had said during orientation, just follow Darnell tonight. He'll keep you out of trouble. Darnell, mid-20s, wiry, quick with a joke, had been lifting crates since Peter got there.
He didn't complain.
Just worked. But tonight, something was off. Darnell moved slower. His eyes were dull. Peter had asked if he was okay. And that's when it happened. Darnell had shrugged, then muttered, "Man, I don't even care anymore. I ain't been paid in 3 weeks, and when I ask Brent, he just gives me cash and says it's off the books. Said corporate's fixing payroll, but it's been like this since I started." Peter's chest tightened.
Wait, cash?
You're not on payroll. Darnell gave a bitter laugh.
Nah, man.
I'm not even sure I exist in the system. He said it's 'cause I didn't have a bank account when I started. I got one now, but...
Yeah.
Peter glanced around. Forklifts buzzed. Boxes stacked. The night shift kept moving like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. He forced himself to stay cool. How long you been here? 5 months, Darnell said, wiping sweat from his brow. I show up, I work, I get cash in an envelope. But now he's late. Again. Peter didn't say anything. He just nodded and lifted the next box onto the pallet. His mind raced. That was illegal. And dangerous. And if it was happening here, how many others were getting paid under the table? Brent had seemed slick from the start. Too casual. Too focused on speed over safety. Always letting things slide, like when an order was mislabeled last night, and he blamed the driver instead of checking the logs. Peter had noticed. But this was on another level. Later in the break room, Peter sat across from Darnell, who peeled open a vending machine sandwich with the look of someone who'd eaten too many of them. You ever talk to corporate? Peter asked carefully. Darnell shook his head.
Nah. Brent said not to.
Said it'd just slow things down. I need the job, man. I'm trying to take care of my sister. She's got a kid. And I'm trying to stay clean. Peter's throat tightened. Stay clean?
Yeah.
I was locked up. Nothing big. Just dumb stuff. But I'm trying to get my life right. Peter looked at him, really looked at him. Not just as a worker, but as a human being trying to survive a system that was failing him. He stood. I'm gonna help you, Darnell. I promise. Darnell squinted. You? Man, you're just a new guy. Peter gave a tired smile. Maybe. But I know when something's not right. That night, Peter barely slept. He sat in his car, engine off, staring at the warehouse's dull lights. He'd built this company to give people chances. Real ones. And now someone was using his name to exploit the exact kind of person he wanted to help. The next day, he showed up early. Before shift. Brent was in the office, feet on the desk, scrolling his phone. Rick, he said, barely glancing up. You're early. I want to talk about Darnell, Peter said, voice steady. Brent laughed. What about him? You're paying him cash. That's illegal. Brent's smile dropped. What did he tell you? Doesn't matter. I know. And it stops.
Now.
Brent stood slowly. You got a lot of guts, new guy. You don't know how this place works. Peter stepped forward. Actually, I do. Because I own it. Brent's face went ghost white. Peter pulled the fake name tag from his chest and dropped it on the desk. I'm Peter Zane. And you're done. Brent didn't say a word for several seconds. The hum of a nearby printer was the only sound in the cramped office. Then, without shifting his weight, he leaned back slowly, eyes narrowing. You're Peter Zane, he said, voice low. Peter nodded once. That's right. Brent looked him over like he was trying to find a crack in the story. You've been working here. Loading trucks. Taking orders for me. Peter didn't flinch. Because I couldn't trust the reports I was getting. And now I know why. Brent glanced toward the closed door, then stood up. You don't understand the pressure this place is under. We're short-staffed. Corporate froze our budget last quarter. I've been keeping this place running with duct tape and prayer. Peter folded his arms. You've been cutting corners and putting people at risk. Paying people off the books? That's not resourcefulness, that's fraud. Brent's voice rose. Payroll's a mess across the board. I didn't create that. I just found ways to get people paid, so they wouldn't walk out. Peter took a step forward. You didn't find a way to get them paid. You found a way to keep them quiet. That's not the same thing. Brent's jaw clenched. You want to shut me down? Go ahead. But when you do, this place falls apart. I'm the only one here who knows how to keep the trucks moving. Peter pointed to the whiteboard behind Brent's desk, the one that still listed outdated inventory numbers from last week. Then explain why your outbound orders are consistently 2 days late. Why half your team is undertrained. Why 3 shipments last month were flagged for missing items. Brent opened his mouth, then closed it again. Peter leaned in. You've got 30 minutes to hand over your keys and get your things. HR will contact you about the formal process. Brent's face turned red. You're making a mistake. Peter's voice didn't rise.
No.
You did. Brent took his time gathering his things, slamming drawers and yanking down his coat from a hook. Peter didn't move. He waited until Brent walked out, then turned to the schedule posted on the wall beside the office door. Only 5 names were listed for the night shift. 3 of them had been absent at least once this week. Peter walked out onto the warehouse floor. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Darnell was carrying a pallet jack toward the loading bay, moving slower than usual. Maya, the only woman on the shift, was scanning packages near Dock 3 while keeping one eye on the time clock. 2 younger guys, Luis and Jordan, were pulling shrink wrap over a stack of crates that looked dangerously uneven.
Peter walked over to them.
That pallet's going to tip if you move it like that. Stop. Luis looked up. It's fine. We do it like this all the time. Peter walked around the stack, pointing to the base. You've got too much weight at the top. Shift it or that thing's collapsing the second it hits a bump. Jordan adjusted his gloves. We don't have time to redo every load. Brent said if we miss quota again, we're all getting written up. Brent's not in charge anymore, Peter said evenly. And nobody's getting written up for doing it right. Luis squinted. Wait, what? Peter didn't answer. Where's Marcus? Luis shrugged. He called out. Again. Peter turned and walked toward the break room. Maya followed him in. You're really the owner? She asked. He nodded. She sat down at the edge of the old plastic table. Never thought I'd see someone from up top in here, let alone working the line. Peter pulled out a chair. How long you been here? Almost a year. I was full-time during the holidays. Then they cut me back to 30 hours and said they'd bump me up again after New Year's. That never happened. Peter nodded slowly. Did you ever talk to Brent about it? He said he submitted the request, but that it was out of his hands. Then he stopped answering my messages. Peter stared at the wall. You ever go over his head? She gave a dry laugh. You mean call the hotline? I did. Left 2 voicemails. Never heard back. Peter ran a hand over his jaw. You want full-time? Maya's expression sharpened.
Yes.
I've been asking since February. You got it. Effective immediately. She blinked. Just like that. No promises about back pay. But I can guarantee you hours starting now. And benefits. She hesitated. Why now? Peter stood up. Because I finally saw what was happening. And I'm not going to let it keep happening. Outside, the rest of the crew had gathered near the loading dock. Word had spread fast. Darnell leaned against a hand truck, watching Peter carefully. Peter stepped into the middle of the group. I'm not here to make speeches. But I owe you all the truth. The crew went quiet. I came here because I didn't like what I was hearing. I thought I'd find some inefficiencies. Maybe some sloppiness. What I found was much worse. He paused. You've been doing your jobs while being lied to, underpaid, and often ignored. That stops now. Jordan crossed his arms. So, what, you gonna wave a wand and fix everything? Peter shook his head.
No.
I'm going to start by hiring 2 more people for this shift. You're overworked and understaffed. Then I'm bringing in a compliance team to audit payroll and make sure everyone's properly on board. Luis raised an eyebrow. You're serious? Peter met his eyes. Dead serious. Darnell spoke for the first time. What about the people who already left? You gonna track them down? Peter nodded. Every single one. We've got records. If anyone was paid off the books, we'll make it right. Maya looked around. And who's in charge now? Peter hesitated. I'll be here until I find someone qualified. Someone who earns your trust, not demands it. He looked at each of them. But I'm not going back upstairs until this place is running the way it should. No one spoke for a moment. Then Jordan said, Guess we better start stacking the next load right. Peter gave a short nod. Let's get to it. That night, he stayed through the shift. He didn't observe he worked. He took orders, moved crates, checked manifests. When the forklift battery died at 2 in the morning, he helped swap it. When the label printer jammed, he cleared it.
And he watched.
He saw how Maya handled the scanner with twice the speed of anyone else. How Darnell, even exhausted, kept helping the newer guys without being asked. How Luis and Jordan, once corrected, took pride in getting the load balanced right. No one asked him for anything. But slowly, the tension shifted. They weren't just surviving the shift. They were owning it. At 4:30, as the sun started to hint at the horizon, Peter stepped outside for air. The lot was quiet. A delivery truck rumbled toward the gate. He looked back at the warehouse. His company. His people. He'd always believed in building from the ground up. He just hadn't realized how far down things had sunk. But now, he was ready to rebuild the right way. From the bottom, with them. Peter stood in the back hallway near the loading dock, clipboard in hand, trying to make sense of the handwritten logs Brent had kept locked away in the office filing cabinet. Most were barely legible. No timestamps, no full employee names, and several entries simply read cash payout see me. He leaned against the wall, scanning the list of first names and partial dates, trying to piece together who had been paid under the table and for how long. Each vague note made his stomach turn. There were too many entries that didn't match with the official payroll data he had pulled last night. Footsteps approached behind him. You Zane? Peter turned. A man in a charcoal jacket and pressed slacks stood in the doorway. Mid-40s, neat mustache, badge clipped to his belt. Yeah, Peter said. You with HR? Compliance. Name's Alan. My team's out front. You called in a full audit. We're here to collect everything. Peter nodded and handed him the clipboard. You're gonna want to start with this. Alan flipped through the pages, his brow tightening. This is worse than what we expected. We'll need access to your security footage, time clock logs, and Brent's company email account. Already unlocked. I'll walk you through. Alan followed him back to the office, where a second compliance specialist was booting up the desktop computer Brent had used. Peter stood by the door, arms crossed, watching the screen flicker to life. "You've got people working tonight?" Alan asked. "Short crew. Same 5 that have been holding this place together." Alan looked up. "You keeping them on shift while we run this?" Peter hesitated. "They asked to keep working. Said they wanted to prove what this place could actually do." Alan nodded once. "We'll try to stay out of their way." Out on the floor, Maya was methodically scanning through a stack of returns, double-checking barcodes against the manifest. Peter approached her from the side. "You okay if I pull you for a minute?" he asked. She looked up.
Yeah.
"What's going on?" "In the office. Need your help with something." She followed him into the break room, where 2 chairs sat beside a folding table. He gestured for her to sit. "I need you to be honest with me," Peter said. "Did Brent ever say anything to you that felt personal? Out of line?" She blinked, then looked down at her hands. "Why are you asking that now?" "Because I'm trying to understand the full picture. And if there was something deeper than just bad management, I need to know." She hesitated. "He made comments about how I looked. Said I didn't fit the usual warehouse type. At first, I thought he was just awkward. Then he started scheduling me for all the closing shifts, alone."
Said it was easier that way.
Peter's jaw tightened. "Did he ever touch you?" "No," she said quickly. "But he'd stand too close. Ask if I had plans after work. When I asked for more hours, he said maybe if I was nicer to him." Peter's voice hardened. "You ever report that?" "I didn't think anyone would listen. He was the only one we ever saw from upstairs. He made it clear there wasn't anyone else to go to." Peter stood. "I'm so sorry. That's not going to be ignored." She looked up. "What happens now?" "He doesn't work here anymore. And he won't be working anywhere else in this company. HR's handling the rest. But I want you to know we're taking this seriously." She nodded slowly. "You really didn't know any of this?" "I didn't. I should have. That's on me." Alan appeared in the doorway. "Peter, you'll want to see this." Peter followed him to the back of the office, where the computer screen now displayed a series of emails. Alan pointed to one thread. The subject line was "Staffing Shortage Workaround." The message was from Brent to another warehouse manager in a different region. It detailed how to sidestep onboarding delays by hiring workers off the books for a probation period, then officially adding them later if they prove reliable. Peter scanned the email, then the reply. The other manager had responded with a thumbs-up emoji and "smart. Been doing the same for months." Peter looked at Alan. "How many warehouses do you think are doing this?" "We'll know by the end of the week." "But this isn't isolated." Peter exhaled slowly. "Then we've got a bigger problem than I thought." He stepped out of the office and walked back onto the warehouse floor. Darnell was loading a crate onto a pallet, headphones in. Peter waved him over. "Need a minute." Darnell pulled out one earbud. "Everything good?" "Getting there," Peter said. "Do you know a guy named Trent? Tall, shaved head, used to work here?" Darnell nodded.
Yeah.
"He only lasted like 3 weeks. Brent said he was too slow." "You still got his number?" "Maybe." "Why?" "I want to reach out. Make things right if he got treated the same way you did." Darnell pulled out his phone and scrolled for a few seconds, then read off a number. Peter typed it into his own phone. "Thanks. One more thing, how are you getting home tonight?" Darnell shrugged. "Same as always. Bus stop on Monroe." Peter frowned. "That route cuts off after midnight." "Yeah, I usually just wait until the morning one starts back up. Grab a coffee, kill time." Peter stared at him. "You've been doing that every night?" "Yeah. It's not so bad." Peter shook his head.
No.
"We'll cover rideshare for overnight workers from now on. You shouldn't be waiting 5 hours outside just to get home." Darnell blinked. "You serious?" Peter's voice was firm. "Completely." He walked to the dispatch station, where Luis and Jordan were reviewing the next wave of shipments. The whiteboard had been wiped clean earlier that day, and now new columns were being filled in with actual delivery times and dock assignments. "You too good with the new layout?" Peter asked. Jordan nodded. "Yeah, it makes more sense. We can actually track what's coming in and out." Luis tapped the marker against the board. "Who's doing all the scheduling now?" "I am," Peter said. "Until we find someone we trust." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "You doing that for all the warehouses?"
Peter paused. "No, just this one.
"For now." Luis turned back to the board. "Then we better make it one worth keeping." Peter didn't say anything. He just picked up a clipboard and started checking off the incoming load. At sunrise, the compliance team packed up 2 boxes of files and left with a verbal NDA already in motion. Peter stayed behind. The crew clocked out one by one, each offering a nod or a quiet word as they passed. He ended the shift the way he started it, on the dock, clipboard in hand, watching the building slowly settle into silence. This wasn't just a broken warehouse. It was a warning shot. His company's name was on the wall, and now he had to wear the weight of what had happened beneath it, which meant starting with the people still standing inside it and proving to them they mattered. Not with speeches, not with slogans, with action. Every night, every shift, every decision. Until trust wasn't something he asked for. It was something he earned. By the following Monday, Peter sat alone in a small conference room above Warehouse 6. The walls were bare, no mission statements, no branding. Just a dry erase board and a view of the loading docks below. He kept his gaze fixed on the floor traffic while a regional HR rep briefed him on the final outcomes of the compliance audit. "Payroll discrepancies confirmed at 3 other sites," she said, flipping through a folder. "Same pattern. Cash payments labeled as temporary help. No digital records. No tax documentation." Peter rubbed his temple. Who signed off on those hires? In each case, the local warehouse managers. But those approvals were never escalated beyond their level. It was all happening in the dark. He looked at her. "Anyone from the corporate side complicit?" She shook her head. "Not that we can prove. But it's clear oversight failed." Peter stood. "Then we'll rebuild it." He walked out and took the stairs down 2 at a time. Morning shift had started an hour earlier, and the air already buzzed with the low rumble of pallets sliding and forklifts backing up. No music, just movement. He crossed the floor to the far side of the warehouse, where a folding table had been set up near the intake dock. Maya was seated beside a woman in her early 30s, dark jeans, company polo 2 sizes too large, hair tied up tight. Her name tag read Carla HR. Peter waited until Maya noticed him. "Can I borrow you?" he asked. She looked at Carla, who nodded once and followed Peter out through the side door into the morning light. "I need your help with something," Peter said. Maya folded her arms. "What kind of help?" "I want to form an internal advisory group. Employees from the floor. No managers, no middle layers. Just people who do the work, giving honest input on what's working and what isn't." She studied him for a second. "You want feedback?" "I want accountability," Peter said. "And not just when things are broken. I want a system that forces people like me to listen before it gets this bad again." "Who else is on it?" "You'd be the first." She looked past him at the warehouse. "You're serious about this?" "I'm done pretending that leadership happens from the top down. We need it from the middle out." She nodded once. "Then I'll do it. But I'm not sugarcoating anything. I don't want you to." Back inside, Peter found Darnell near the back lot, sorting damaged packaging. His posture was better than last week. Still tired, but more grounded. "You got a minute?" Peter asked. Darnell nodded, but didn't stop working. "Yeah." Peter leaned against the wall. "We got in touch with Trent. HR's working on a settlement." He didn't want to come back, but he appreciated the call. Darnell dropped a broken strap into the discard bin.
Good.
He deserved better. So, do you? Darnell looked over. You offering something? I've got a new role. Team lead assistant. It's not glamorous, but it comes with full pay, guaranteed hours, and a shot at moving up. Darnell raised an eyebrow. Why me? Because I've seen how you handle pressure. How you help the new guys. You've done the work without the title. I'm just making it official. Darnell took a breath. I'll take it. But I'm not babysitting anyone. You won't be. You'll be setting a standard.
They shook hands.
Later that day, Peter moved through the warehouse with a quiet determination. He checked in with Luis and Jordan, who were reworking the staging area layout. Instead of giving instructions, he asked what they needed. They told him more lightweight jacks, better visibility on incoming orders, and a break schedule that didn't leave someone stranded for 45 minutes. He wrote it all down. In the afternoon, a new hire orientation began in the main office. 3 recruits, all of them scheduled for graveyard, sat in folding chairs, while Carla reviewed the onboarding packet. This time, everything was logged electronically.
No envelopes. No ambiguity.
Afterward, Peter walked them through the floor, introducing them to each station. When they reached Dock 3, Maya stepped in, gave a real demo, and answered questions without looking rushed. Peter didn't say much. He just watched the way she moved, confident, no wasted motion, no hesitation. The crew listened. At 5, a delivery truck pulled into Base 6. The driver stepped out, young, maybe 22, and looked around like he wasn't sure where to go. A few months ago, he would have been ignored. Instead, Darnell walked over, pointed out the intake lane, and guided him through the process with clear, even instructions. Peter stayed back, arms crossed, taking it in. When the truck pulled away 20 minutes later, everything had been logged, stacked, and cleared. No chaos. No shouting. Just work being done right. That night, Peter met with Carla in the office. We've got a path forward, she said. Longer onboarding, tighter oversight, quarterly audits. But it'll take time. I've got time, Peter said. She looked at him. Are you going back to the other warehouses? Eventually. But not until this one's running the way it should. She nodded. There's one more thing. The hotline? We updated it. New team, direct escalation. Anonymous or named. No more dead ends. Peter smiled faintly.
Good.
We can't fix what we don't hear. She closed her folder. You're doing right by them. I'm trying. The next morning, Peter arrived before sunrise.
No clipboard. No meetings.
Just a pair of gloves and his old hoodie. He stepped onto the floor, joined the intake team, and started lifting. No one made a big deal of it. No one needed to. They just worked. Together. And this time, it was being done right.